Welcome to Vin and Mike, episode 71. What is up, Mike?
What is up, Vin? First episode of April. How you doing?
Doing well. And our special guest is here with us, Joy Taylor from
Joy.
Sports, The Speak, FS1. How are you, Joy?
I'm great, guys. Thanks for having me. That's a fun intro.
Oh, yeah. We have fun every time we do the show. You know, it's crazy for me saying Joy Taylor because in my head, I hear Acho constantly saying Joy Taylor. Joy Taylor. He never just says Joy. He always says Joy Taylor. You know?
Cool name.
That. I'm gonna pay attention to that now. I've never noticed that.
So every time, I say, to Mike, I'll never say we're having Joy on, this time like we're having Joy Taylor on. We're having Joy Taylor on. So the whole thing. But thanks for joining us. We're happy to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, one of the things we do is we like to ask our audience, some questions for you. And it's kind of crazy. I had multiple people say, can you ask Joy about her trip to Panama? So can you tell us a little bit about your trip?
Yeah, actually it came together kind of at the last minute. We kind of have a interesting time slot because sometimes we get bumped for live sports because we're, technically in the afternoon on the East Coast. Or late afternoon. So we had a few days off from the show, and I love to travel. It's like what I love to do most other than watch sports. So anytime, I do a daily show and I'm in Los Angeles, so there's only so many places you can get from LA for the weekend that are on this side of the country. So anytime we have time off and I'm not going to see my family, which are mostly all on the East Coast, I try to go somewhere new, and a friend of mine that I went with is Panamanian. So we decided to go to Panama, and it was great. I don't speak Spanish. I'm working on it. It's very rough, but both MJ and Monique are both fluent in Spanish. So it was a really great experience, and Panama City is incredible. And it was really cool to see the canal, which I didn't know what to expect going to the canal. I like to see historic things whenever I travel somewhere new. And it's just kind of crazy being there, thinking of like everything that goes on with that space, and like $1 billion worth of stuff goes through the canal every day. And it's just kind of like how the whole world works.
Right.
It's just flowing in front of you, and it's this crazy engineering marvel. So that was really cool. And then we stayed in the old city and ate a bunch of really amazing food and got to go to the islands and, get some fresh fish and everything. So it was an amazing experience. It was really cool. And yeah, so now I've been to Panama and we're off to somewhere new later in the year.
Just checking it off the list. Now, sounds relaxing and refreshing. We always like to get an understanding of beginnings. So, Joy, I wanted to know where you grew up. And we know your brother, the great Jason Taylor, great player. But who were your sports icons growing up as well?
So I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I lived there until I was 18. I played basketball, soccer, volleyball, and I ran track. And I eventually ran track my freshman year of college too on scholarship. I thought I was going to be Michael Jordan. Basketball was my first love.
Mm-hmm.
And I really I loved Cheryl Swoops and Shamika Holdsclaw and Lisa Leslie and Allen Iverson. And I just really, 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 really loved Michael Jordan now. Like, he is easily my favorite all-time athlete. And I just I was obsessed with him. Like, I would rewatch games that I recorded on VHS because I already knew the outcome, but just wanted to watch Michael again. And I'm 36, so we did not have the ability to record things on our television, and you had to be in front of your TV if you wanted to see Mike. So Michael Jordan was probably my favorite all-time athlete, and I love Junior Seau and FloJo, and like I said, Cheryl Swoops and Mia Hamm, and I was a big jock growing up. I was always outside. It was, video games weren't quite what they are now.
No.
So if I wasn't outside playing, if it was cold in Pittsburgh, we were at the gym. So I spent my childhood really playing sports and watching sports. And obviously my brother, played in the NFL, but he played in Miami. So, we have a 12-year age gap. So obviously I watched his games and went to a lot of his, almost all of his college games, as he played in Akron, which was about a 2-hour drive from Pittsburgh. So, yeah, I mean, I won most athletic my senior year of high school, which I'm very proud of. But yeah, I was a jock, and I loved sports and loved playing sports and watching sports and talking about sports and being at sporting events. And, Western Pennsylvania is also very, very big for football.
Yeah.
In my high school, particularly, I went to Woodland Hills. So, outside of Jason, there were a lot of, NFL players that have gone through there, also, and had a great reputation for, the Friday night lights of high school football. So that's where I started and grew up.
Yeah, we don't like to admit it as Knicks fans that we like Michael Jordan as well. So we just don't admit it, to anyone. Even though we did admit it just here, but
we have respect.
That wasn't me who said it.
I think you can appreciate greatness. I got to that point with Tom Brady because obviously Tom Brady made my life hell for many, many years, being, rooting for the Dolphins and in the AFC with the Steelers. And I got to the point after he beat Atlanta in the Super Bowl, the comeback in the Super Bowl against Atlanta and Houston, I was like, I give up. I mean, what am I going to do? I'm going to live my whole life bitter and mad at this man. He's the best that's ever done it. I'm just going to enjoy the rest of his career. And I got to tell you, I think I avoided some wrinkles and some gray hairs doing that because I just submitted. I was like, all right, I give up. Like, I don't know how much longer this dude's going to play for. And obviously he ended up playing for quite a few more years. But I was like, I'm just going to enjoy watching the GOAT and at least spend some of the years of his career actually enjoying watching him play, as opposed to just hate watching him and having him ruin my day. And it was a good choice. So I think all fans, when you're being punished by the GOAT for a long time, eventually submit to it. Unless they, go off a cliff, which, it doesn't happen too often with the greatest of the greats. So I hear you on
yeah. And then, of course, he decides to go to Tampa during COVID and wins another Super Bowl. So, we won't even go down that road.
Yeah,
I know Mike, as a Jets fan, is very suffering with Tom Brady as well. And me, I'm a Raiders fan, so I complain about the Tuck rule, every time I get a chance to complain.
He does all the time.
So, you mentioned, your fandom to basketball, and this female women's national championship game was fantastic. The whole tournament was great, and of course, everyone's talking about Angel Reese and controversy, and then Caitlin Clark came out and said, that's competition, that's the way it is. And I grew up watching Larry Bird and fighting with Dr. J on the court, and Shaquille O'Neal saying that Patrick Ewing is the meanest person he's ever met on the court, and watching videos of Kobe Bryant standing next to Michael Jordan during an All-Star game and talking trash to each other. So to me, that's sport, right? And, it's something that she just gave back to her that she did in the Elite Eight matchup against Louisville, and just gave it back to her and said, you can't see us now. LSU is the championship. And people have gone like berserk about this. And I know your takes on it. And I just want you to tell our audience, how you felt about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was surprised a little bit how mad people were. It just, especially some of the people that were so mad about it, I was really confused. I'm like, I could see if you are somebody who is a traditional pearl clutcher, like you're bothered and offended by anyone who steps out of line, or you think that sports are supposed to be played a certain way and people are supposed to, shake hands and whatever. Fine. But it's like, what did you expect her to do, really? Why would you do something differently? Like, this is the number one player in the country, the best player in the tournament, men's or women's. And she's been out here, maybe not doing exactly what Angel Reese did, but certainly garnering some attention, certainly showboating by anyone's standards, certainly showing up the opponent, albeit not in their direct face, but there was a reason we were talking about her outside of just her play. So for Angel Reese to take the moment to gloat, who cares? They're winning, and they didn't just win by like 1 second or one weird call or something. I know everyone's talking about the referees. They dominated that game. Like they were just the better team. Caitlin still got hers, but like this was LSU's moment. So I just, there are a lot of layers that I believe play a role in it. I do think that it's very racially motivated how, Angel Reese was covered compared to Caitlin Clark. I do think it's extremely sexist that were all of those men that you just mentioned who are legends, who no one would dare say they shouldn't be talking trash, and in fact are celebrated for it, have done that. And we haven't had, this meltdown online about it. If you don't like it, if you don't like players showboating, just keep the same energy for both. That's just, you have to be consistent with it. And I personally am like, when did everyone get so soft? I did not get the memo on this. Like, I was under the impression that Kobe is part of this legend because of Mamba mentality. I mean, Michael Jordan spoke about positively for punching Steve Kerr in the face. I mean, Draymond Green is considered to be one of the most essential parts of this Golden State dynasty. What are we talking about? It just doesn't make sense. I can't make it make sense without including the racial and sexist part of it, because we just don't. There's just not enough consistency on the other side, and not even it being consistent. It's like celebrated and encouraged. And if you've played sports, if you've been out, to a park in New York, or I don't know, most places, or if you go to LA Fitness, or I don't know, do anything competitive, this is a part of it. You win. Mm-hmm. You get to gloat. That's how it goes. And sometimes people don't gloat, and that's wonderful for them. But everyone's not supposed to be the same. And part of sports is entertainment. And I like it a bit too. I'm trying to figure out which way to lean, this a legendary sports picture, one of my favorite sports pictures of all time. Would you say that he's gloating in this picture?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Looks that way.
Canvas on my wall. It's this is an iconic moment in sports. He's gloating. He's a human body. So, I just find it to be very, very, not even ironic. I can't quite point the word on it, but it's unfortunate that the story is not how dominant LSU was, what an incredible run they've had, and what an incredible coach Kim is. And the best part of all this is they're coming back, because the CBA is weird, but they're coming back next year. So we get another run of this Magic Larry, rivalry, which I think is amazing. And overall, it's really great. It's great for the sport. It's great for women's basketball. And, it's just going to continue to grow their legends. And I'm glad there was not 1 second of question in my mind that was going to be Caitlin Clark's response to it. Because of course, Caitlin's a competitor. She's not some nerd who's, all bothered.
No, so that's a really good point.
Because if it was reversed and Iowa had won, she would have been doing that too.
Yeah, she
would have been praised for it, because that's what she was doing all tournaments. And, we know what's going to happen is very soon one of the guys is going to gloat, and we're going to have to talk about this again, because people aren't going to be mad, because it's competition, it's sports.
Yeah, that's just part of it. Even video game playing, right? You win at a video game, you throw the remote up in the air, and you have to buy a new one tomorrow because it broke right after you threw it. But that's just like part of it, right? I mean, it's just part of competition.
I was going to say, you gloat on this show all the time, Vinny, and I got to put up with it. Yeah. But
you know me constantly.
No, I just wanted to change topics for a second. The Herd, such a great show. You were an integral part of that. And I watched the last episode, Joy, and one of the things that Colin said was that when you first came on, he wasn't sure if it was going to work because he said he talked too much. And I just remember hearing that and I started to laugh. So what do you think really made it work? What was the chemistry behind that show? Such a good show.
Well, I think people, when they see and listen to Colin, they think Colin takes himself very seriously, and he doesn't. He takes the show very seriously, but himself, not so much. And I think that's important, especially when you're doing a show that's as long as The Herd is. 3 hours is a very long show in our business, and it's a radio format show as well. So you're going to get to know the person really well if you're a regular listener, and that's kind of the beauty of the radio format. And for me and Colin, we had a little bit of base before I started on the show because I would always fill in on The Herd.
I remember that
for years when I was on Undisputed. So I had already known the beats of the show, meaning, I knew how long the prep was. I knew the producers. I knew, how the show works, like the structure of the show. And, if you go to a new show, sometimes that takes a little time to adjust, if you're coming from a different format, which obviously a debate show format like Undisputed is very different than a 3-hour radio show format. So just from a technical side, we already had a good base to start with. We knew each other a little bit. I knew his cadence. When you're doing a show, as you guys know, you kind of have to know when someone's wrapping up their thought or, how long they usually talk for and, little things like that. When their inflection's going up or down, they're probably wrapping up. The more you do a show with someone, the more you learn those things. But also, I think, I always make it a point to meet people where they are. And obviously, Colin and I are two very different people, but we really have a lot in common. And also, when the pandemic happened and we were doing the show from home, we did a show basically like I had the radio headset on because the audio had to go through the radio equipment. It couldn't go through Zoom, and then I had a camera, but he couldn't see me. We had to pull Zoom up. So everything had to be linked up to this crazy setup. And we didn't have any live sports to talk about for 4 months doing a daily 3-hour show. So we really had to lean on each other a lot. And I think that really helped the growth and chemistry of the show because we didn't have any options. He and I were
Last Dance helped a lot too.
Oh my God. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Netflix. I mean, I cannot
How great was that? Perfect timing for that, right?
I cannot tell you. That got us through a good amount of time. I mean, we were covering that like it was live. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. Who's going to win? It's really a crazy time. I'm not ready to reminisce yet. It's too soon, but it definitely helped us a lot, getting to know each other more. And I think it helped the development of the show and personalities. And then we were the first ones to come back in studio. So, we had all these really crazy experiences. Speaking of Kobe, we did the show from Miami from the Super Bowl the day after Kobe passed. So, Colin he's an amazing professional to work with. Sorry, someone's knocking on my door. He's an amazing professional to work with. He's a very empathetic person. He has lots of kids and, just loves hanging out with his wife, and he loves doing a great show. And it was a great experience for me to be able to work with him and learn from him. And it makes me happy to know that people really enjoyed the show when we were on it together.
Show.
Yeah, it was, it's still very interesting, some of the topics that he throws out there and some of his takes on things, which I want to just take my computer and throw it at the TV, at the same time. But at the same time, it's entertainment, it's sports, it's passion, and that's how we, it's what we do, and what we really, why we like doing, this podcast and everything that comes along with it. I know you're up against some time here, but just want to ask you, because Mike is a huge Jets fan, and our audience is built on a lot of New York talk. Aaron Rodgers, supposedly coming here. It's still in the 23rd hour. Looks like they're just trying to figure out some compensation around draft picks and all that. But he comes here. Where do you see the Jets, moving forward with Aaron Rodgers next year at the helm?
Well, look, I spent 1 year as a Jets fan in my life. It was 2010.
When your brother was
Solid year. Solid year.
Yeah.
I cannot say that I still have allegiances there, but so I think Aaron Rodgers is coming. Like, I know everyone's like, oh, it's not done. Like, it's done. It's just a matter of who's going to blink first. The Packers want to move on, and they don't want to pay Aaron Rodgers what would be paid if he stayed there. And the Jets don't have a quarterback, so there's need on both sides here. It's just a matter of, I think the Jets are trying to hold out from giving a first round pick, which, in my opinion, I would just do, because you're in the short term with Aaron Rodgers anyway. Like, if you're bringing in Aaron Rodgers, you're not looking to build for the next 5-6 years of your franchise's existence. You're talking about the next 2 years tops. Yeah. So why are you clutching to a pick? Like, I get it if you would prefer not to give it, but you're in the short term business anyway with Aaron Rodgers bringing him in. I just am weary about how it works, because we saw Tom Brady go to Tampa Bay, which felt like a ready-made situation that just needed a quarterback. And it did. But he also brought some other pieces with him. He also had Gronk, which was a big, big, big deal. They brought in Shady. They brought in Antonio Brown. Like, they brought in some pretty important pieces that definitely contributed to them winning a championship outside of Tom Brady. Now, I still give Tom Brady credit for that, because it came for Tom Brady. And he was clearly the catalyst to them winning that championship. But that's Tom. And Tom's one of the best leaders we've ever seen in the history of sports. And he's the greatest quarterback that we've ever seen in the history of the sport. Then you have Matthew Stafford. So he goes there, wins right away. Then you have Matthew Stafford go to the Rams. Again, Sean McVay had the Rams in the Super Bowl with Jared Goff a few years before. You've got some other Hall of Famers on that roster. You've got Cooper Kupp. So, you had these incredible big-time pieces that were there, and then you added some more important pieces as well. Odell, so that, to me, played a role in that. So they've already had some baseline success. Bruce Arians had been a coach for a very long time, a good coach at that for a very long time. Sean McVay had already been in a Super Bowl. Then you get to Russell Wilson last year. Now, Russ was good, but not great leaving Seattle. Still felt like he had a lot in the tank. We definitely felt like the Broncos were just a quarterback away. I mean, we talk about the Broncos like, geez, if they could just get anyone competent at the quarterback position. Now, they bring in Nathaniel Hackett, who obviously I don't think did a great job. But Russ was really bad. It's bad. And we're going to see if if it was Nathaniel Hackett or if it's Russ, because Sean Payton is there now and nobody thinks that Sean Payton is bad. So I say all that to say this. I don't know if it's Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady, or if it's Russ, or if it's somewhere in between. And to me, anything somewhere in between and below is a colossal failure. Like, if you're bringing in Aaron Rodgers to this Jets team, essentially giving up what the Jets will probably end up having to get up to bring in Aaron Rodgers, it's not to make the playoffs, right? Like, we're not talking about this much to bring in a quarterback to just make the playoffs. Like, the expectations should be higher than that for as much as we're talking about this happening. So that's sort of where our conversations start to get a little muddy, because I'm like, great. He leaves, he follows in Brett Favre's footsteps and everything he does. He goes to the Jets. And then what? Like, don't they have to make an AFC championship game, right? Like, anything less than that kind of silly, because I know that the Jets haven't been great for a long time, but it can't just be like, we're doing all this just to make the playoffs.
Right. There's got to be more.
And to get to that AFC championship game, you have to be Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. That's just those four. Maybe wherever Lamar goes.
Right. So I think it's interesting, and I love interesting, because that's the business. So I'm here for the chaos of it. I think it's interesting. I think they're better. I just don't know that I can jump to the Jets all of a sudden becoming real contenders. And while I say that, I'm also saying, like, but if they're not real contenders, like, why does any of this really matter? I mean, in the division alone, you've got Josh Allen and you've got, in theory, a healthy Tua, but if Tua's healthy, he's winning games.
Yeah.
And I know everyone's down on Bill Belichick, but Bill Belichick can still manage to like mess up your season and take you out of contention for winning the division. He can, maybe pull that off. So I think it's a really tough division. It's not even a guarantee you're going to win the division. So I still do it if I'm the Jets. But I don't know. I don't know if it's Russell Wilson, like I said, or if it's Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady.
Yeah, I know Mike is always very upset at Bill Belichick because I think the Jets haven't beaten New England in, was it 10 years, something like that?
Don't even get me started, please. I'm just happy they have a good core finally, and they just need this quarterback piece. Like, they have something going. They really do.
Yeah.
So.
It's unfortunate that Zach Wilson did not pan out because there are so many great young players on that Jets team that it would be just the perfect time to have a talented young quarterback with these talented young players where everyone is cheap and growing together. So
exactly.
that sucks, but
yeah, I mean, that's what I keep saying to Mike. Garrett Wilson won Offensive Rookie of the Year with that quarterback room. So you can only imagine what he could do with somebody that's higher level. But then at the same time, you can make a good point. Brady goes to Tampa. Mike Evans is there, veteran receiver, right? Cooper Kupp is with the Rams. Russell went to Denver. Yes, there was a couple of good receivers, but then Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, not at that level of maybe Cooper Kupp or Mike Evans when in terms of veteran leadership. Now Aaron Rodgers goes there, who seemed like he didn't really want to work with the rookies in Green Bay last year. Bunch of young guys in the locker room, with the Jets, and then a young defense on top of it. So that's where, to me, it gets a little, like you said, muddy water. So that's what.
Yeah, that's the other element that, when you talk about personalities that I think you have to consider, which I don't know how many people are actually considering this part of it, is that Tom Brady really embraces everyone in the locker room. Like that's the beat on his personality, no matter where he's been or who he's worked with. He really connects with people. He wants people to feel involved. He introduces himself to everyone. He's sneaking around and breaking COVID protocol to work out with his receivers. He's on a group chat. He's watching film for other people and sending them breakdowns. Like, he's obsessed with this. Matthew Stafford, by all accounts, is a great teammate. I mean, suffered for years in Detroit, gets to an offensive genius and Sean McVay, immediately has this unreal connection with Cooper Kupp. Is that going to be what Aaron does? Because we know Aaron is very much a me guy. He's a guy for his guys, but how do you become his guy? And if you're not his guy, you're really not his guy. And that personality type works great if you're a golfer, or you play tennis, or maybe even in some ways if you play basketball. But this is a team that has young successful players on it who want to get their numbers so they can get paid. Like this, there are two different spectrums. It's not even about relating culturally. Like, you're at two different spaces in your careers.
Right.
And while everybody wants to win, when you have a really young team, they want to prove themselves as well. Like they want to get theirs, and rightfully so. This is their career. This is their money. This is their livelihood. You've made like what, $500 million, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you're not worried about that at this point. So, and your legacy is cemented. He's first ballot Hall of Famer. So I do find all of these elements to be very interesting when it comes to the pairing of the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if it was my number one choice for him to go to, but I think he'll end up there. And like I said, I think it's going to be very interesting, and I will be watching, and I will be either very critical or very wrong.
Yeah, we're going to be exactly the same way all the time.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, I just want you to talk a little bit about the Joy Taylor Foundation and what you do, because, me and Mike, a big thing that we do on the podcast, we have our website, and part of our website has a store, and we sell Vin and Mike T-shirts and stickers and all that stuff. But all the proceeds we get from that, we donate to a charity every month. So we just want to, we're big into giving back, and the Joy Taylor Foundation, just talk a little bit about that if you can.
Well, I love that you guys do that. So I did a lot of work when I was in Miami with nonprofits, and when I came to LA, I wanted to, continue that work and sort of put together something. People would always ask me, like, how can we help, or how can we get involved? And rather than, sending people a bunch of different places, I wanted to kind of bring everything that I was doing together and help support some of the organizations that I was working with. So the Joy Taylor Foundation works with organizations that do work with the homeless, with domestic violence survivors, and youth empowerment. So we have a couple partners around the country with different organizations that do work with those communities, and we'll do events. And I have a scholarship with Barry University, with my alma mater. We did a holiday give back with Beauty to the Streets out here. We did a all girls flag football camp out here last year for Super Bowl in LA with Jen Welter, Dr. Jen Welter. So so those are some of the initiatives that we work with. And if you want to check it out, it's joytaylorfoundation.com, and we'll have some more events and ways that you can donate or contribute or be involved coming up really soon.
Cool. Very good. And if you're in New York for any events, let us know. We're more than happy to come out and support you and the entire foundation.
Yeah, definitely. I would love that.
So thank you for the time, Joy. It was great. We really appreciate you joining us today. And again, I'm telling you, Acho says Joy.
Yeah, I know. It's in my mind now.
And the other thing,
I'm not going to say anything to him, and it'll make him change how he does it. So I'm just going to notice.
The other thing he likes to do is LaShawn Shady McCoy, the all-time Eagles rushing leader. That's his thing. All right, Joy. Have a great night.
Thanks so much, Joy.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
it's great to meet
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Joy Taylor, everybody. Fox Sports, FS1, 4:30 Eastern Time. On my Verizon, 583. I don't know what you got, Mike. I have no idea. Nor does anyone care about you. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, all right. Bringing out the guns, Vin.
Year after she leaves.
Yeah. You're well behaved, and now you're back to your old self.
I was very good. But that was great. We're really appreciative of her. I think she made a really good point about Aaron Rodgers. Are you gonna get Brady or Stafford? Are you gonna get Russell Wilson? Or
there's no middle. It's one or the other. That's it. There's none.
I think we've talked about it, right? You got to get past Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, and like I said, Herbert. And we didn't go into a lot of the other guys, but it's just it's a big list of young, good quarterbacks, good teams in the AFC. And I know you always made the point that you weren't a big fan of Rodgers because you feel the team is still 2 to 3 years away from getting there, and you'd rather see them get someone younger. I know you were looking for like Derek Carr, and then when you heard Lamar was available, so all that. So interesting points on that.
No, she made some really great points about that.
Yeah. So, and then, the whole Angel Reese thing, I wanted her to talk about it because she's been, very vocal about it. And me and you've talked about it off the air. We and we agree that it's machismo versus, females and the whole racial thing. And it's like everything that America tries to do to make things controversial when it's just sports and it's two young women that really competed hard against each other. And I look forward to watching the tournament next year with them. And it was, because they're both.
The ratings were awesome this year. What was it? 9.9 million? Yeah, that's incredible.
They said doubled from last year.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff we do. All right. What else do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the game last night?
Yeah, you look at that tournament. Look where it started. Look at people's brackets. Look at my bracket. Look at your bracket.
Well, it was kind of crazy, right? Like you were so high on Purdue, and they were gone, right?
Gone.
I was high on Houston. I thought Baylor had a shot at a 3 seed. I liked Gonzaga. I liked Alabama. I mean, I could talk about all this stuff, right? I mean, just like insane. UConn, San Diego State, but UConn played unbelievable.
They did. One game dominated. They were up by 12 in the first half.
Every game,
every game they dominated. There was never a letdown. It seemed like, right, Vin?
No, it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal to see. And last night's game was great to watch at the end. I tell you, we have some allegiance to Jersey City, right? Because we worked there for many years.
Yeah.
So when Danny Hurley mentioned Jersey City, and we know his father is like a Jersey City legend, and St. Anthony's, which no longer actually exists anymore, which is crazy in Jersey City, was the high school where he won high school championships and had a lot of great high school players that went on to the NBA. A lot of guys that went to Seton Hall, like Terry DeHare. And then, of course, Bobby Hurley Jr. himself went to St. Anthony's, ended up going to Duke, right? Mm-hmm. So just seeing his father in the audience, and then seeing Bobby Hurley in the audience, and and of course Danny went to St. Anthony's as well and played there as well. Just that whole Jersey City connection was kind of cool to see. And it was funny, like this tournament was in a weird way like a New Jersey tournament, right? The upset by Princeton, the
Fairleigh Dickinson,
FDU,
yep.
Right? And then
last year,
the kid from Jersey takes the UConn team and goes and wins. I tell you, Jim Nance, that was his last game called as well. But they were talking an interesting thing how the Big East team that plays in the Western bracket has won, I forgot how many national championships. Like Villanova was in the Western bracket. Like it was like kind of like
interesting.
Yeah, I think 3 of their 5 championships, UConn was in the Western bracket.
Right.
Oh, kind of interesting on that point as well. But yeah, my brackets got blown up. I know some people had UConn. I know our good friend Anthony put some money on it. I know Dan Hernandez had a lot of good money. I had one guy in my bracket tournament that actually picked UConn to win, so he easily won the whole thing because we were all done basically before the Elite Eight except him.
Do you like how I said about Dan that his bets are like CVS receipts?
That's right.
Our friend Dan will send us his bets. It's like a whole thing. Like it's like you're dealing with.
It's like Anthony's golf bets. He'll tell you he won, but he bet every single golfer 35 times over.
Good strategy, Anthony. He's saying hello right now, as a matter of fact.
I know that's why I was talking. He wants to talk about the Masters, of course. Yeah. He did send some picks. You know what? Let me.
Good. I think you should tell our audience. Yeah.
I want to just grab it real quick because I'll read them for our audience to know. Let me just see here. I know he sent it to us as a whole.
That fine print of his.
Yeah, he does. All right, so here are his picks. Again, the odds are different. I'm just going to read off the guys that he set to bet. So Max Homa, Will Zalatoris, Sam Burns, Corey Connors, Keith Mitchell, and Tom Hodge. That's where his money's going. Excuse me. That's where our money's going to go with our own little intricacies because we think we know what we're doing when we're looking at golf. It is what it is, but it's everything, and that's just the way it is. All right. Let's talk baseball.
Yankees, Mets. But the first thing, I was having this conversation with some of my coworkers today. Best thing about baseball this year is the pitch count.
Oh, the clock is great.
The clock is the greatest thing that happened this year. The games are reasonable. You could enjoy them. They're done. Yeah, go ahead.
Scored 8 runs last night. Crazy amount of guys on base, all this stuff. It still was under 3 hours.
I know.
Still under 3
Pleasure.
hours.
It's going to be so good for baseball.
What day was it? Sunday? Saturday? it was like a 1:30 start. It was
done
over
by
before
4:30?
4:00.
4 o'clock. That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, the flow of the game. I'll tell you, a guy like Nestor Cortez who pitched yesterday, that clock is perfect for him because he's the kind of guy, the rhythm guy, right? Like, let's just go. If Greg Maddux was pitching now with that clock, I think I've said it before, but if he was pitching now at that clock, he'd probably win 30 games. Might as well the amount of games he won as an all-time, because his rhythm was he would pitch games in less than 2 hours before there was the clock. Can you imagine now? Guy would be done in an hour and a half. Yeah, but it is. The pitch clock is great. I like that the shift has been taken away. To me, that was like an illegal formation in the NFL, so I'm happy that was taken away. I just like the way MLB is going right now, and Yankees are off to a really good start. It's again so early, but it's nice to see everybody, hitting, especially Gleyber Torres. It's really nice to see him hitting. We know Judge and Stanton are always going to hit.
Right, they're consistent.
Judge is just the best player in baseball. I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, people could say whatever they want. He's just the best player in baseball. He plays the field like a Gold Glover. He hits for average now. He's got unbelievable power. He plays in the biggest market that he can possibly play in. He's the captain of the team, and he continues to excel. And he's making more money now than everybody except Ohtani.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
Did I tell you? I don't know if I told you this. They did the what's that called? Where you make money away from the sport. What's that called? Your when you sell your sneakers and all that. What's that called?
I know what you're thinking. I can't put it in like
a word. But so Ohtani makes $30 million, right?
Endorsements. Yeah.
He makes $30 million a year in endorsements. Judge is second. Judge makes $4.5 million. He's 7 times more in endorsements than Judge. And on top of him getting $30 million this year. So when he gets his $50 million contract next year, for 10 years, he's gonna make $100 million a year next year.
Yeah,
he's gonna be at a very high level.
Speaking of endorsements, I can't wait to see that Air Jordan movie. I can't wait.
It's Matt Damon, Ben Affleck.
Yeah,
right?
It looks so good.
Now, does Ben Affleck or Matt Damon play Phil Knight? Do you know?
I don't know who's I saw previews briefly. I forget who's playing who. I'll have to look into it.
I like
the whole premise looks just so good about just how taking a chance on Jordan and what happened. Just incredible with Nike.
I like the one trailer that I saw where they're talking about the sneaker.
Yeah,
50% of the sneaker has to be white, or you get fined in the NBA. I'm guessing that's how it was back then. I don't know, right? And I forget which one of them said it and goes, well, just pay the fine. They knew having the sneaker out there was incredible. You sent me that.
Yeah, I'm going to mention that right now. I want to tell our audience, crazy stat that I found on Instagram. 1984, when the Air Jordans came out, Nike hoped to make $3 million in Jordan sales in over 4 years. Right now, within 2022, this was taken. Nike generates $3 million in Jordan sales every 5 hours. Sound like a good gamble to me.
There was something I read recently.
It's incredible.
Larry Johnson got paid $1 million by Converse, and Jordan was making $500,000. And Jordan said to him, "That's great, because I'm going to take that back to Nike, for my next contract," knowing that he was going to get paid, a whole different level of money, But it's amazing how Jordan, LeBron, Brady, Derek Jeter, they're brands now. They're no longer athletes, right? That they're no longer just endorsed athletes, right? They are full brands. Like their name, their nil, right? Their name, image, and like is a brand at like such a high level that they're billionaires. They're up there with the elites of the elite, and it was from playing sports, and they created this whole brand out of it. And it's not, and it's many guys now. I just named, four, like Tiger Woods, right?
There you go.
He's got to have press conferences on a Tuesday. The Masters doesn't start to Thursday about him being at the Masters, right? I mean, he's that big of a brand, right? It's not just a big person. He's just Tiger Woods, the brand. Like it's unbelievable the amount of money and where these guys have taken their careers to. It's just unbelievable, And like Jeter and Brady and other guys, they're in the broadcasting world. They're paying them $30-40 million to be on TV now.
Right. They're making more money on it's
right.
Yeah.
I can only imagine with like Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith and Shaq.
They deserve every penny. Those guys.
I'm just saying,
best in the business. Those four.
Yeah. Like these guys are making almost now more money away from the field than on the field. Not never was like that, right? It was never like that. Like that was like your little second job. You were done with your multi-million-dollar career. Now you got this other multi-million-dollar career, but your brand is part of that multi-million-dollar career. And I'm guessing social media and the internet and everything that comes along with it is also driven that. So,
yeah.
So back to the Yankees and Mets.
Yes, sir.
We'll get into some X's and O's here real quick. I like the way the Yankees are playing. I'm glad that Judge is batting second and not leading off because it drove me insane last year.
I enjoyed you.
I like where LeMahieu's hitting. I'm happy Gleyber Torres is hitting. Volpe is a nice little addition. He can bat ninth. He plays a really good shortstop. He steals bases. So he'll get into himself. You got to give him time. He's 21 years old, right? Playing for the New York Yankees at 21. What were you doing at 21, Mike?
You don't want to know.
We were waking you up off the curb after a night out up in Ithaca, right?
Yeah, and these guys are like playing shortstop in the New York Yankees.
Got to sign a multi-million-dollar deal to play shortstop for the New York Yankees.
Vinny and I were getting off benches.
I was making $7 an hour tossing pizzas. So the Mets, I think their big problem still is they just need one more bat. They just need one more. I think that Carlos Correa move would have been phenomenal for them. So they just need one more like power bat. They need to get healthy, of course. Verlander. They got to hope Scherzer stays healthy, like everything that comes along with that. But I like where both teams are. I think they're both, 90 plus again, right in the win column. Both should be right there in October. Yeah. Some exciting October baseball again and go in that direction. So that's what I'm hoping for. All right. One last thing. And I was going to ask Joy about it, but, we knew we actually extended her much longer than
which was great.
It was good. She was very nice and very humble with that. So we appreciate that. But Luka, right? Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, the Mavericks. So there's a couple of things, right? This might screw the Knicks. And I don't know if you knew this. So the Knicks have the Mavericks first round pick this year. If it's not a top 10 pick. Now, with the Mavericks like playing like crap and potentially not making the playoffs, that might turn it into a top 10 pick, and we have to wait till next year. So we're not going to have a first round pick this year because I think we traded the rest of them away. So that's the first thing. Second thing is Luka, who led teams that I always thought were, was him and everyone else, right?
That's right.
Jalen Brunson was much better than we even expected because we see it now. And he came out and said he misses him a lot, right? And I don't know. I take that as a ding at Kyrie.
Of course, it's a ding,
right?
Of course, it is.
I know he didn't say, Kyrie's not my guy or Kyrie's my guy.
Right, but he indirectly, it just,
right?
It's like saying that he's not my guy when you say you miss someone who was a huge impact on your team to the guy who came to your team. Of course, it's a dig.
Yeah, a major dig. But Kyrie's going to be a free agent, and he's been Cleveland, Boston, Brooklyn, Dallas, right? That's it, right? Those are the four winning spots. And he just, he was terrible in Boston, nightmare in Brooklyn. Dallas, his play, they're not winning. I don't know how he's been off the court if he has decided not to show up for like 2 weeks for whatever reason he makes up.
Right.
I'm not signing him. I'm sorry. I'm not spending $200 million on Kyrie Irving, despite all his talent and that he could score 25 points a game, every game, and do tremendous things offense. I just can't have him on my team at this point. With his first of all, his injury proneness. He's not a big guy to begin with. He's a lot older, and he's just seems like he's not a good teammate, and he just seems like he's not a good person off the court as well. So I don't know. I just can't. Someone will sign him, but I'm not signing him.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel?
I mean, it's all about team chemistry, right? These guys are not gelling. And the reason why Luka mentioned Jalen Brunson, he sees what he's doing with Julius Randle and other players around him.
Yeah.
He's motivating those people. Look at Julius Randle a couple years ago in his game and the fan base and what happened, right? He lost the fan base in New York. Do you know how hard that is to recapture? Like,
I know.
Jalen Brunson has done a tremendous job with the Knicks. He's motivated all these other people around him. And you're right, Vinny, that Luka really was the guy and everybody else. And they thought bringing Kyrie, there would be a chemistry and they would play well together, and that's not been the case. So you're right. Why would you spend a tremendous amount of money to pay someone who's not producing?
I know.
So I think you answered it.
Yeah.
I want it.
Sometimes I think I'm crazy when I say this stuff because the talent is there. But if there's no chemistry, nobody's gelling together, I don't even want to take the chance, and I think, it's probably some of your fears now thinking about Aaron Rodgers, on the Jets, if this trade goes through and everything. Is he going to have that chemistry with these young
Time will tell.
guys, right?
Well, like Joy said, it's either going to go one way or the other. I mean, that's it.
You made a good point with,
Isn't that a good comparison?
Brady and Stafford, right? Like veteran guys moving to a team and winning the Super Bowl that year.
Right.
But, that was the NFC. There was no Pat Mahomes in your way. They went out and beat Joe Burrow and Pat Mahomes, but they didn't have to go through those guys to get there, right? Like that's like the other whole big point of it. But she made a lot of really good points on a lot of stuff.
She sure did. It was great having her on. Absolutely.
Yeah. So now she's gonna pay attention to Acho calling her Joy Taylor.
I like how you said it. The full name.
He does. He does it all the time, and I sit there, and every time like I want to talk about her, I say Joy Taylor. I don't even say Joy because he's got it ingrained in my head to keep saying it. So, but I'll tell you, people want to watch a fun, good show, real educated thought process. Shady McCoy brings a good point. Acho is a guy that is going to be a star somewhere. Like eventually, Joy's already a star. Like they're like run the show, and then they have like Shady, and then they got this other guy, Dave Hellman, who's a Cowboys guy. Which I'll be honest, I'd like to get him on the show just to talk about Dak Prescott, and because I know he's a big supporter of Dak, and I want, I know how a lot of people feel about Dak Prescott, including me and you, who think he's just not good enough. But
I didn't think I want to differ from that. I don't think he had the right receivers last year.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb. I mean, what do you have? CeeDee Lamb?
I don't know, man.
I know he's had ample time.
He just like a deer in the headlights in the big moment, right? I don't know. I just think he's not good enough. My son, when I play video games with him and I throw like a interception in a football game and I make a bad pass, he goes, "Oh, you just Dak that." You know, so he's already seeing that, you know, Dak makes these mistakes in like crucial situations. So
yeah,
it's nice getting attacked by a 10-year-old playing a video game.
You got the life.
That's why controls are smashed because kids are throwing them at me. That's the reason why they're smashed. Not that I beat them.
Oh man!
All right, this was a really great show. You know, I appreciate Joy spending more time with us than we thought she would, and you know, and then everything else that came along with it, Mike. Right?
Yeah, it was a great show. Love their points about the Jets.
One last thing before you.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Weekend Podcast Network no longer exists. We're no longer there. They shut down business. They got rid of about 70 podcasts. You know, so we're free agents. So if anybody's out there that's a podcast network and listening to the show, you know, go to our website. There's a contact page there. Just throw in your information, and we'll be more than happy to join your network. So I just want to say that real quick.
Yeah, no, thanks, Vin.
Yeah. All right. What were you saying now?
No, I was just saying I loved her point about the Jets. It was great hearing her story growing up and who she looked up to. We all laughed about The Last Dance, how that all got us through COVID, because it really did, because there was nothing going on. And then just watching that documentary, everybody was talking about that there were no sports. So that's what you were calling your friends about, saying, "Oh, look what happened here." Reminiscent a lot of the 90s basketball with the Knicks and Bulls and everything. And it was great.
I watched a lot of UFC and a lot of WWE during COVID. That was like the only live events that were going on in like their studios of like where they practice.
Yeah.
Which was crazy. By the way, did you see UFC bought WWE?
I heard about this.
Yeah. So now it's one big parent company. So all I can hope for is Vince McMahon now to walk into the octagon at one of the UFC events and strut around like if Vince McMahon can only do. But they're a $21 billion company now.
I'm not surprised.
It's crazy.
I'm not surprised.
All right, Mike. Great show. We will be back next week. You know?
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Thanks everyone for tuning in live, and we'll see you next week.